Westminster Abbey stands at the very heart of British history. Its soaring Gothic towers rise above London's skyline, and for nearly 1,000 years it has been the setting for coronations, royal weddings, funerals and burials. Beneath its stone floors lie the remains of kings and queens, poets and prime ministers, scientists and soldiers, but few people ever think about what truly lies beneath. In the shadowy burial vaults that stretch under the Abbey's chapels and aisles, the hidden royal vaults are places of silence and reverence, but the stories of monarchs end. Behind heavy stone slabs and iron gates, the great and powerful of Britain sleep side by side. Some rest peacefully in grand tombs, and others were hastily interred in times of turmoil. To step inside these vaults, if one ever could, is to walk through a timeline of British monarchy carved in stone. Westminster Abbey's story begins in the 11th century. King Edward the Confessor, one of the last Anglo-Saxon kings, ordered the construction of a great stone church near his palace at Westminster. It was completed in 1065, just days before his death, and he was buried within it, a sign that this would be no ordinary church. When William the Conqueror was crowned there a year later, a tradition was born. Every English and British monarch since 1066, except for Edward V and Edward VIII, has been crowned into Westminster Abbey. Over the centuries, its chapels became filled with royal monuments and burials. By the Middle Ages, it had earned the title the House of Kings. But space within the main church was limited. As each generation of monarchs sought a fitting place to rest, burials extended below ground, into crypts and sealed vaults. These became the final resting places of some of the most famous and infamous figures in British royal history. At the very heart of the abbey stands the shrine of Edward the Confessor. Canonised as a saint in 1161, his body lies in a raised tomb of marble and mosaic, surrounded by what is known as the Royal Chapel. Around him were buried some of England's earliest kings and queens, eager to rest close to a saint. Here lie Henry III, who rebuilt the abbey in its present Gothic form in the 13th century, Edward I, or Longshanks, and Edward III, Victor of Crequi, and founder of the Order of the Garter. The tombs of their queens, Eleanor of Castile, Philippa of Hainault, and Anne of Bohemia, surround them. These burials were not in underground vaults, but in grand stone tombs visible to pilgrims and visitors. The vaults themselves, chambers sealed below these chapels, came later, as space grew scarce and the needs of royal burials changed. By the early 1500s, Westminster Abbey was overflowing with tombs. When Henry VII decided to build his own chapel, he created not only one of the most beautiful examples of late Gothic architecture in Europe, but also a royal burial vault beneath it. The Henry VII Lady Chapel, at the eastern end of the abbey, was completed in 1519. Its fan-vaulted ceiling, adorned with Tudor roses and symbols of dynastic triumph, hides a large crypt below. Henry VII was the first Tudor king, and he built his chapel to symbolise the legitimacy of his new dynasty after decades of civil war. In the vault beneath his magnificent tomb lie Henry VII and his wife, Elizabeth of York, the marriage that united the warring houses of Lancaster and York. Their polished gilt bronze effigies, made by the Italian sculptor Pietro Tolentino, rest above them. The same chapel would later hold the remains of many Tudor and Stuart monarchs, most famously Mary I and Elizabeth I, the half-sisters who once ruled opposing religious realms, were buried together in the north aisle of Henry VII's chapel. The irony is striking. Two queens who stood for rival visions of England now share the same tomb, their effigies carved in eternal peace. The Latin inscription between them simply reads, "Partners in throne and grave, here we sleep, Elizabeth and Mary, sisters in hope of resurrection." The 17th century was an age of turbulence, civil war, regicide and restoration. Westminster Abbey's royal vault reflects this chaos. When King James I, the son of Mary Queen of Scots, died in 1625, he was buried in Henry VII's Chapel, marking the start of the Stuart dynasty's use of the vault. The vault also holds the remains of William III and Mary II, the co-monarchs who replaced James II after the Glorious Revolution, as well as Queen Anne, the last of the Stuarts. In total, 15 kings and queens are buried in or beneath Henry VII's chapel, making it one of the most significant royal necropolises in the world. Yet not every Stuart monarch found rest here. Charles I, executed in 1649 after the Civil War, was denied burial in Westminster Abbey by Oliver Cromwell's government. He was laid to rest in St George's Chapel at Windsor, a reminder that even kings could be refused entry to the royal vaults. When the Hanoverian dynasty succeeded the Stuarts in 1714, royal burials gradually shifted away from Westminster Abbey, yet some members of the early Hanoverian family were still interred there, in vaults that remain sealed and largely unseen today. The most notable of these is the South Aisle Vault of Henry VII's Chapel, where George II, the last monarch to be buried at Westminster Abbey, was laid to rest in 1760 beside his beloved Queen, Caroline of Ansbach. Their burial vault is remarkable for one touching detail. Their 2 lead coffins were placed side by side, with sides removed so that, even in death, their remains could lie together, united forever. After George II's royal burials moved permanently to St George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, beginning with George III, Westminster Abbey was simply too full, and the newer monarchs preferred Windsor's privacy. But the Abbey's vaults remained a sacred resting place for centuries of predecessors. Beneath the floors of Westminster Abbey lies a maze of sealed crypts, vaults and passageways, each containing multiple lead-lined coffins. These vaults were never meant to be seen by the public. Their entrances are hidden beneath marble slabs, monuments and iron grills. The vaults vary in size. Some contain only a few members of one royal family, others hold dozens. For example, the Tudor vault under Henry VII's tomb is a large stone chamber holding not only the king and queen, but also several of their children who died young. The Stuart vault nearby holds monarchs, queens, consorts and royal relatives from over a century of dynastic rule. Inside, the air would be heavy and still. The coffins are stacked on stone shelves or placed side by side, many bearing simple lead nameplates, and over time, some have decayed or collapsed. In a few cases, when restoration work was carried out in the 19th and 20th centuries, workers caught brief glimpses of these royal remains. Records describe the careful resealing of vaults and ensuring that no disturbance would occur again. So, who lies where? A roll call of royal dead. To step through Westminster Abbey's chapels is to walk above some of the greatest names in English history. Here are just a few of those buried beneath the stone. Edward the Confessor died in 1066. He was founder of the abbey and canonised a saint and buried in his shrine. Then there's Henry III, who died in 1272, rebuilder of the abbey and buried near to the Confessor. Then there's Edward I, Longshanks, died in 1307, the warrior king of Scotland campaigns. And then there's Edward III, who died in 1377, founder of the Order of the Garter. Henry V, who died in 1422, hero of Agincourt, buried beneath his Chantry Chapel. Henry VII and Elizabeth of York died in 1509 and 1503, founders of the Tudor dynasty. Edward VI died 1553, the boy king, son of Henry VIII, buried in the Confessor's Chapel. Mary I and Elizabeth I died in 1558 and 1603, half-sisters sharing one tomb. James I died 1625, the first Stuart king of England. Charles II died 1685, the merry monarch buried without pomp. William III and Mary II died 1702 and 1694, joint rulers after the Glorious Revolution. Queen Anne died 1714, the last Stuart monarch. George II and Queen Caroline died 1760 and 1737, last monarchs to be buried in the Abbey. It is extraordinary to think that beneath a single building lies the remains of nearly all the monarchs who shaped medieval, Tudor and early modern Britain. Although known as the Royal Peculiar, Westminster Abbey is also home to graves of poets, scientists and statesmen. Poets' Corner, for example, contains the remains of Geoffrey Chaucer, Charles Dickens, Rudyard Kipling and others. Nearby lie Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, men who changed how humanity understood the world. The mix of monarchs and minds makes the Abbey not just a royal burial ground but a national pantheon, a place where Britain commemorates its most significant figures, whether of crown or pen. The royal vaults, though sealed, have not always escaped disturbance. During the English Civil War, parliamentarian soldiers ransacked parts of the Abbey. The medieval shrine of Edward the Confessor was damaged, and some royal tombs were desecrated. In later centuries, restorers and antiquarians occasionally opened vaults for inspection and repair, and one notable instance occurred in 1867 when workmen repairing the floor of Henry VII's chapel accidentally broke into a royal vault. They found within it several coffins, stacked and labelled, their metal corroded but still intact. The discovery was quietly resealed and no further entry was permitted. Even today, the Abbey authorities guard these vaults closely. Their contents are known through old records and drawings, but very few have ever been photographed or examined in modern times. Today, Westminster Abbey remains at the centre of royal ceremony. Every coronation, from William the Conqueror to King Charles III, has taken place just above those ancient vaults. The building connects the living monarchy with its departed ancestors, and during funerals such as those of Queen Elizabeth I, Charles II or Queen Anne, mourners would watch as the coffin was lowered through a trapdoor into the vault below. Bells tolled, prayers were said, and the stone was sealed forever. The same steps were followed centuries later for figures like Sir Isaac Newton and Stephen Hawking, their ashes buried within the Abbey. The vault may be full, but the Abbey continues to receive new interments in its walls and floors, a continuing story of British history in stone and bone. Inside the royal vaults of Westminster Abbey lies an entire hidden world, a silent kingdom beneath the living one. Kings who fought each other in life now rest within feet of each other in death. Queens who ruled over rival faiths share the same chamber. The Abbey's echoing vaults tell a story not only of monarchy, but of the passing of time itself, from Saxon saints to Tudor splendour, from Stuart tragedy to Georgian elegance. Every slab of marble hides a fragment of that history. Though the public will never walk among these shadowed chambers, the idea that beneath Westminster's familiar floor lies the dust of England's greatest rulers gives the Abbey its haunting, almost sacred power. It is, quite literally, the burial heart of the British nation, where history sleeps beneath our feet. Thank you for watching, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.